Welcome to Secrets of the Sussexes. Yesterday it was a private tea with his father. Today it's a graceful interview line about how next year my focus will be on my father. Tomorrow, dozens of headlines spun out of a single hint. Sound familiar? For those over 50 who've weathered more than one royal storm, the picture is instantly clear. The king offered a rare gesture of generosity. He invited his younger son to a conversation without cameras, without press groups, without the obligatory image. In Windsor, one rule always applied: the quieter the meeting, the more valuable it was. And the more damage any word afterwards could inflict. Harry could have chosen silence. Instead he chose a formula that discloses nothing on its surface but sets the tone for a chorus of speculation. In the Windsor Code, that looks like cashing in the trust credit on day one. A defender might protest. He didn't reveal anything, it was just a vague line. But in real media logic, the returning guest sets the color of the news cycle. A simple, quiet yes, all is well would have left an empty space that cooled quickly. The phrase "my focus on my father next year" does the opposite. It launches a season of expectation, pushing reporters to ask what was meant, what was discussed, what are the timetables and, diagnoses. This is exactly how past truth corrections sparked new cracks. And now the palace is forced once again to choose silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because any reply only lifts the wave higher. Geography adds bite. Kiev is a place of hard specifics: prosthetics, rehabilitation, surgery queues, accounting down to the penny. Here, extra words sound especially loud. Whether Harry's tone was shaped by genuine emotion or by habit, in a frame surrounded by the wounded, family hints felt out of place. Older audiences feel that acutely. They grew up respecting deeds, not roles. If you go for veterans, be there only for them. Otherwise the pain of others becomes a backdrop for your own story, and people sense it. Meghan is absent from the frame. Formally, it's the right call: her presence doubles the temperature. Solo, Harry can try on the mask of a son making an effort. But solitude also exposes the script. Access to his father, then a public frame, even a vague one. That's not family living room, that's production board. And when he follows with "without truth there is no reconciliation," those who recall Elizabeth II's cool recollections may very doubt that truth means the same thing on both sides. For the palace, truth is silence and routine meetings no one sees. For Hollywood, it's an intro to the next episode. But he wants to spend more time in Britain, some say. Perhaps. But that path doesn't run through framing it in interviews. It runs through long weeks without comment. Through trips revealed not by leaks but by side effects. On Saturday a hospital has new therapy chairs, paid by the fund, not by the star photo. Through closing the children's subject entirely, no rare shots from behind, no fleeting reels. For older viewers, what matters is not the story of change, but its silence. Words are sand. Actions are stone. The palace's best strategy is boring: reduce everything to protocol. Every meeting without cameras, without family friends, without sources close to. Break it, pause. Keep it, next step. No generous photo ops, no temptation to bring into the light what belongs in the shade. It doesn't harvest views, but it harvests the only currency that counts: trust. In that sense, Kiev could have been a quiet signal of maturity: no family talk, just a ledger: who, where, what, when, how funded. A 4-column table is more convincing than any line about focus. The problem: public memory is long. It stores not only Spare and the fireside interviews, but each never again, followed without fail by the next exceptional revelation. So Clear Conscience is heard not as a full stop, but as an ellipsis. And of course, the shadow of rivalry with William still hangs. The only way out is to become the man of quiet deeds who comments on nothing. It's hard: silence wins no applause. But without it, you remain the protagonist of your own saga, not part of the family whole. There's another nuance older audiences catch: the difference between mercy and performing mercy. The first quietly pays clinic bills and therapist salaries, the second lays a hand on a shoulder for cameras with the right words. Veteran communities detect instantly who arrived with action and who with a storyline. It's not about personality, it's about repetition. Come, help, leave, and no story about yourself afterward. That's how reputation builds, beyond the reach of headlines. So what's Harry's realistic plan if he truly wants to come home more often than once a year? First, stop framing. Even a kindly, throwaway line like this week's triggers mistrust. Next, sustain 3 to 6 months of total silence on any fatherly meeting, whether they happened or not must vanish from public talk. In parallel, shift from initiatives to measurable output in the veterans field. Where there is specificity, slogans aren't needed. And finally, lock the children away from any hints. If the grandchildren see the king, no one outside the room should know. By spring, headlines will change tone. Apparently, he really has gone quiet. That's when confidence begins to build, the kind you can't buy with soundbites. And what about the Waleses, the eternal comparison? The answer: nothing. The comparison disappears only where there's no material to compare. When one household sticks to never complain, never explain, and the other stops explaining and returns to deeds, the audience stops playing ratings. Over time, people lean not to the loudest, but to the most reliable. That's age's law, it trumps every wave of hype. Otherwise, the familiar route returns. A week from now, interview without details. A month later, source close to the circle. By winter, candid look at reconciliation. The palace shuts, the public tires, every hospital trip reads as set dressing. We've fallen from this cliff before, and each time it hurts. Most of all for those who naively believed the last confession really was last. Is it hopeless? No. Royal reputations are rebuilt through boring routine. Not a string of grand gestures or sparkling quotes, but months when nothing happens on screen and much happens off. Older audiences respect exactly that: labor without broadcast. Windsor lived in is always stronger than Windsor televised. There's an old parable of the scorpion stinging the one who carried it across the river. Why? Because it's my habit. Habit is not destiny, but it breaks only with a schedule. The right schedule for Harry now is silence, action, pause, silence again. No, I barely said anything, just nothing said. That's the only language Windsor still hears. And finally, we're not here to hand out labels or stir cheap emotions. Our audience is grown, it wants the whole picture. If you too see how trust can fracture from a single careless phrase, support this video so the algorithm shows you fewer shouts and more sense. As promised, we'll keep watching not the noise but the facts, not the slogans but the deeds, for as long as it takes to tell one from the other. Secrets of the Sussexes stays on air with a steady voice, where too many others are shouting.